Hi everyone, my name is Adrienne Salyer. I'm with IPX1031 Exchange Services. I wanted to touch base on one of the key requirements in a 1031 exchange called the same taxpayer requirement. Under the same taxpayer requirement, it states that the same underlying individual or entity that sells must also be the same underlying taxpaying entity or individual that purchases the replacement property. That seems pretty straightforward if there's one individual that's selling and that same individual purchases. But what happens if there's an LLC that's a partnership LLC? Let me give you an example. Let's say under that partnership, there are 3 separate partners. Upon sale, or prior to sale, I should say, they decide as partners that possibly one partner wants to cash out. He wants to take his portion of the proceeds from that sale and cash out. He's willing to pay the taxes on his portion of the gain, and that's great. The other 2 partners under that partnership don't. They want to do a 1031 exchange with their portion of the proceeds into a replacement property together. How does that work since the same underlying taxpaying entity that sells must stay the same when it purchases the replacement property? Well, they do what's called a drop and swap. Essentially, the drop and swap is deeding their interests out of the partnership into what's called a TIC, or a tenant in common interest. So in this scenario, let's say the one individual, one partner that wants to cash out upon sale takes his interest or deeds his interest out of the partnership, so meaning the partnership itself doesn't have to dissolve, and neither does the LLC. But he deeds his interest through a good real estate attorney helping him or her out of that partnership and into that tenant in common interest. Now you have 2 separate tax-paying entities for that property. You've got the tenant in common interest of that individual, that one partner that's no longer a part of the partnership, and you have the partnership under the LLC as well. Those 2 individuals now, or individuals I should say, entities, the individual and the entity, are now the sellers of that relinquished property. So the individual can go his own way upon the closing of the sale as the tenant in common, and the partnership under the LLC can then do the 1031 exchange with its portion of the proceeds into a replacement property. The caveat to all this, or the risk, is that it needs to happen, meaning the drop and the swap, well in advance of sale of the property. Because what are you doing? You're changing the ownership structure. And sometimes that can create or trigger some issues from a tax perspective. So you definitely would need to speak with your tax advisor or CPA about this well in advance of sale. And or there might be some issues with the operating agreement in conjunction with that LLC, that partnership LLC. So the bottom line is that it's definitely doable. Please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to consult anytime. But also, it needs to be done well in advance of sale with the consultation and assistance of a good tax advisor or CPA. But don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to walk you and or your clients through any of this if needed. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.